D49 is a success story. D49 is a growth story. D49 is a restorative story. When I came to D49 several years ago, we're coming out of the turmoil caused by having oversight of the Department of Justice. From that, this district got together, the people got closer, and we grew. And I want to share with you today some of the success stories. We reformed so many things such as expulsion hearings. We've been able to make actual change in students' lives, and we want to share that with you today. In restorative practices, one of the things we want to stress to adults is to make sure that they let students know they were once like they were. They all have a backstory. When they see you driving around in your cars, it doesn't matter what year or how late the model is, they see success. When they see you coming in with nice clothes, they see success. They assume you came fully formed into these things. And with us, we have to understand that we were once like them, so we need to share that. Like I said, I grew up in a place called Anacostia in Washington, D.C. It's a poor neighborhood, a lot of crime there and everything like that. I mean, I had to face a lot of obstacles as I grew up. I walked through starting out in a Boy Scout uniform and then went on to an Army ROTC uniform. Had, brushes with trouble and things like that, but I was able to get through, go to University of Maryland, go to Air Force Academy prep school and graduate. And I think that's one of the things that we don't share as much. I got David Watson here with me today, my presenting partner, and he can tell you some things about his life in Baltimore.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dr. Liu. I appreciate that. I did grow up in a small town outside of Baltimore, and I grew up poor. And, we had a lot of struggles as families, and we compensated for things and some not so many healthy choices. And found myself getting in trouble with the law, and found myself being held accountable in a court process, which led me down many different paths, where one day the person who was keeping me straight and held accountable asked me a question of where do you see yourself in the future? What do you want to do? And then I explained to him that I'd always had this dream that I wanted to be in law enforcement. I wanted to be a police officer. And so he encouraged me to follow that dream and to not lose sight of it. And I took many benchmark steps to get to that place where I could accept that responsibility of what I had done to get me where I was. And then I took the steps necessary, which led me finally into the journey of I did become a police officer, and I got to serve my community. And I got to be pivotal in many students' lives and many facets of the law enforcement realm, especially as a DARE officer in community policing. And I was able to share my story then as I am now in this critical role of serving School District 49 as a safety and security director. And I'm able to help impact those students' lives as they're going through the expulsion process. And I have the opportunity to share with them that I too went through that process. And it's a good thing.
Yeah, and like I said, we've been together for a long time, going all over the world, in fact, talking about these kind of things. A little bit about the first time you took the test for the police department.
That first time I took that test for the police department, I didn't do so well. That was part of the process when my probation officer asked me, what is it you want to do? And I said, I want to be in law enforcement. I want to be a police officer. And as part of the conditions, I had to take that next step of, you said you want to do it, now prove you want to do it. And so I signed up for a test to become a cadet for a local police agency, and I failed that test. I did not do well at all. And that was because I was not in school and I was not completing my coursework like I was supposed to be doing, and I didn't do so well on that written exam. And the recruiter could tell that I had some stress on my face from failing that exam, and gave me some encouragement and said, hey, why don't you go into the military and come back and see us? And so that journey led me to join in the military, spending several years in the Army National Guard. And I did go back where I completed the process and eventually became a police officer and got to serve my community.
Yeah, and see, that's one of the main things that I want to stress when we talk about restorative practices. It's not about being perfect the first time. It's about making it right and doing the work to make it right. And one of the things I we talk about accountability, and people sometimes don't attribute accountability to restorative practices. It's all about accountability. It's about telling you that if you want to do something, there's some things you have to do. Just like saying if you have done something, there's a price you have to pay. But that price doesn't have to be you being removed from the community forever. That price is, here's the accountability and here's the path back. Are you willing to walk it? If you're willing to walk it, we're willing to walk it with you and bring you back.
Are you willing to put in that hard work? Are you willing to make sacrifices on your own, accepting that accountability, knowing that you have to make it right? And once you get into that phase and you start down that journey, that's when true healing can begin for you, a family, or whoever has been impacted.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think with our expulsion hearings that we want to impart to people is that when we bring students in, our goal is restoration. Our goal is to look at what they come into the room with. Our goal is to work with the parents, the families, guardian ad litem sometimes lawyers come with them. But our goal is never to punish. Our goal is to have them to learn with accountability. We've done over 100 cases together. And out of those 100 cases, we were able to do a lot of good deferments. And one of the things about deferred expulsions is that our track record right now is about 83% of the students who get deferred expulsions make it all the way through their year and never have it on their record.
Correct.
So one of those things right there, I think that it's great, and it's a counterpoint in the room is that we're both restorative guys, but we're both humans. So we have to check each other sometimes in hearings. If he sees me being less restorative, he brings me back. If I see him less restorative, I bring him back, and that way we balance and make sure we get the best outcome for the family.
That's so very true, and that's what we're there for. That's what education is about. We're not here to throw the hammer at anyone. We must be restorative. We must allow students to grow and figure out how they can succeed on their journey that best suits them, and meet them in the middle sometimes. Yeah. I mean, we have to be willing to go that extra step, and I think we do that very well together. Seeing where they are academically with their grades, where are they with their discipline record in the past, and how can we best support them and the family?
Yeah, I think that's one of those things, and we'll talk about it more later when we bring Dave Pratt into the mix, talking about some success stories right there. But I think restorative practices is how we are successful in D49, and it's not just for the kids; it's for the adults as well.
It's how we're successful as a community. A school district and a school is a community inside of the community, and we are grooming our community to be the best they can be and to put their best foot forward. Do we all stumble? We all stumble. We stumble as adults. We stumbled as in our own lives as students in school growing up. It was a learning process. It's a journey, and we're always continuing to get better.
Yeah. I think that puts a bow on it. We got to be better together. And if we do it together, whether it be looking at equity leadership and the different things with bias in the community, if we can talk to each other, we can dialogue with each other, we can get to the place we need to get to together. So I appreciate that.
Well, hello friends. My name's David Pratt. I'm part of the safety and security team for School District 49 and a very passionate member of the team that implements restorative practices in our district, a group of amazing people that see the wisdom of healing and opportunity for kids. We are what's called an inclusionary district that believes in being formative with our kids, not an exclusionary district that brings out the hammer. And that allows us to be creative. That allows us to build these relationships with our staff, our parents, our community, our kids, and seek higher outcomes. I can tell you that it's very rare in a school district of our size that someone in my position at my level gets to have big conversations with big people. I've got a chief of operations that supports our efforts, Pedro Almeida, a chief financial officer, Brett Ridgway, a chief education officer, Peter Hiltz, my boss, Dave Watson, Dr. Lou Fletcher, Leah Holland, a really collaborative team that allows us to talk through big issues and reach solutions that sometimes are not seen in school districts. And I'll share with you a story that we had recently this past year. It was a New Year's Eve 2020, and two young freshman students decided to go have an adventure at their former elementary school, and they did some vandalism. And it wasn't the toughest offense to solve. We had video cameras. We were able to identify them pretty rapidly. I'd say it was within 3 days that we had a resolution in terms of who did this event. But then the real work began. We started thinking the classic model for accountability in school districts when felony vandalism occurs is to reach out to the jurisdiction that serves that school. In this case, it would be CSPD, the Colorado Springs Police Department. We would connect with the SRO. We would say, hey, we've got 2 students that need to be held accountable for some vandalism. The officer would come in and collaborate with us on the investigation, and then tickets would follow. And not just tickets, these are J summonses. These are juvenile referrals, bringing these students into the juvenile justice system, to include taking them downtown for photos and prints. As a police officer with the Colorado Springs Police Department, I saw cases like this, I worked cases like this, and they weren't always the best outcomes. And so because of the work that's been done over the past few years with our leadership, allowing us to be restorative, a group of us thought this is a great opportunity to give these kids an opportunity. We still want to hold them accountable, but we want to do it in a way that respects their dignity, their opportunities to grow and learn, and to make sure that the community feels that they've been a part of this as well. So this is where the labor-intensive work begins. You have got to establish trust with your school leadership that suffered the loss. You've got to establish trust with the parents of these 2 kids and the kids, and then establish trust with our leadership here that we're doing the right things for the right reasons. And we're not just picking and choosing who gets to go through restorative practices. This has to be something that we embrace as a district. Once you do that tough work in the beginning, things really start to come together. People trust that you are doing the right things for the right reasons. And then it moves in this direction of where we bring families together. We bring the folks that have been wronged together, and we sit in a circle and we listen to one another and we share honestly. And the kids have an opportunity to feel the pain of what they have done to that community. And we don't do this to shame kids. We are the opposite of shame. We do this to hold them accountable in a strong way, in a kind way, much like a parent would do. And that gives a voice to the kids as well as those who have been wronged. Through the course of that process, lives are changed. It is not unusual to see tears flow, Kleenexes come out, tough dads reach over with their sleeves and wipe their nose, and kids really start to think that the people in their community truly do care about them. And that's when the magic begins. We start to move forward in a direction that repairs harm and restores relationships. And having been a part of it, having witnessed it, I can tell you it's one of the most powerful things that I get to do in this role. One of my favorite sayings in this role is, you don't fix broken kids with hammers. A lot of folks don't get that. They default back to that punitive model. If you really want to change lives in a positive way, we've got to do this and not this. That's a little bit about our journey in District 49. If you want to learn more about this, please reach out to us. We are always ready to share what we have learned, and it is not a straight line upward. We've had ups and downs, backs and forths, lefts and rights. We're all learning and growing in this process. We all want to learn more, and we'll probably learn from many of you. So think about us in March for our conference. We would be excited to partner with you, and we can't wait to see where this journey brings all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing time with us today. As you can see, D49 is a very restorative place, and we appreciate where we came from on our restorative journey. If you want to learn more about restorative practices and immerse yourself, we have the Rocky Mountain Restorative Practices Conference, March 2021, the 11th and 12th. It'll be out at the Great Wolf Lodge. So if you want to learn more about it, learn more restorative, enjoy us at our conference, please reach out to us. Thank you.